So let me just talk about the spine for a moment, and then maybe we'll actually begin in a seated meditation today to look at the circulating energy around the spine. So the spine has three major planes of motion, so directions of motion, and we call it the 6 movements of the spine. So the 6 movements of the spine are spinal flexion, spinal extension, rotation right, rotation left, side bend right, and then side bend left. So that's 6 movements, forward, back. That happens on the sagittal forward back plane. Then we have side bend, right and left. That happens on the frontal or coronal plane. And then we have this central axis on the transverse plane where rotation occurs. So those are our 3 planes and our 6 movements. And so when we look at spinal motion, we want to look at freeing up the body in all movements and all planes. And what happens a lot of times is that we'll start to get tunnel vision, that the body will start just moving forward and moving towards center. And I call it tunnel vision in the body, when we lose the ability to move through those other planes. So today, I want to do a little work in the forward and back plane, because that's a great place to start, because we're usually most comfortable there. But I really want to work in the side plane and the rotational plane, because that tends to be where we lose the motion. And the side to side motion is super important for separating the movement of the rib cage along the pelvis. And it's also really important for shock absorption in the body. So we'll start in stillness, but then we'll make it a little bit more dynamic. And we'll integrate a little rolling and a little dynamic stretching to get into those planes of motion. So hopefully that sounds good. So let's come to a comfortable seat to begin. I'm gonna come into a kneeling posture. You could come into a seated posture, but make sure you elevate the pelvis. You may even be sitting on your gorgeous ball or sitting on your foam roller, so that you can find first a stable base. I want you to feel the floor of the trunk. So the pelvic floor is literally the foundation for our whole torso, that the spine rises out of and that the head rests on. So just do a little forward backward motion here and feel that sitting foundation of your sit bones. And then think about, as you rock forward and back, it's like if you were standing, you're rocking to the toes and rocking to the heels, like you're gently dancing. And then you're pausing right in the middle, so that you have equal weight on the front and back of the sit bones. And you can feel the bottom of that pelvic bowl descend straight down as you inhale. And I want you to take your hands, cupping the left hand under the right and bringing them right into that area under the navel, kind of pressing the pinky fingers into the low belly. And then the thumbs can lightly touch. And I want you to think about the hands creating the bowl, mirroring that bowl of the pelvis. And now I want you to begin to feel the breath move up and down the spine. Just feel the ascension of the breath on the inhale, the breath filling up the bowl of the pelvis, the rib cage, the chest, into the throat. And then the breath descending down the spine back to the pelvis. First, feeling the rise and fall like a tidal wave. And then we'll start to create a circular movement or an awareness of a circular motion of the breath around the spine that will cultivate a little bit more strength and stability. So as you inhale, inhale from the pelvic floor, right at the front edge of the tailbone, up the back of the spine. Feeling the inhale roll up the back of the neck, culminating at the top of the head. Pause at the top of the inhale. Then feel the exhale flush over the front of the body like a waterfall and landing back in the pelvic bowl. So the breath ascends up the back body to the crown of the head. Then the breath pours out to the front body, returning back to the pelvis. Without forcing, follow this circular action of the breath like a water wheel. As you inhale, drawing up the breath and the energy to the crown of the head, and then exhale, letting it wash down your front body, returning to center. And you'll feel that pull you back into center a little bit. And then the inhale comes up the back, taking in what you need. And then exhale and letting it go. And feel that exchange of taking in and letting go. Cultivating awareness of breath, as well as this energetic movement around center. Arising from the center, returning to the center. Taking 3 more rounds of breath in this way. And wherever you are, letting go of that breath, letting the legs come from underneath you, unfurl out in front. And I'm going to just stay sitting on my cushion, keep my pelvis a little bit elevated. And I'm actually going to even keep my knees a little bent so that the motion and the lengthening doesn't come from the legs, but more from the spine. And I'm going to cascade my body forward over my legs, giving my legs a little hug as I hug my knees, coming into this caterpillar yin posture or this cocoon type shape. Feeling the spinal flexion by letting the head drop. Letting the shoulders round and the chest drop. Letting the belly hollow so that the low back rounds. And come back to that water wheel breathing, taking 5 more rounds of breath, feeling the breath cycle up to the crown of the head. And as it exhales and washes down the front body, it allows the front body to drop a little closer to the legs. And then rolling up gently. Take the hands behind you, feeling now the extension of the spine. So fingertips point forward. Legs could stay out in front, but I'm going to bend them so that I'm going to come towards a reverse tabletop. And I'm just going to lift the hips up. Oops, I need to move forward a little bit. I'm going to lift the hips up, lift the chest up, tip the head back. And notice if I can feel the spine lift up now. Coming back to the breath for 5 rounds. Feeling that balance between effort and ease. This posture takes a lot of work. So notice if you're straining, if you're efforting, if you're guarding. How can you support yourself in this pose for 2 more breaths? Take 1 more breath and then come on back down to your seat. And then let's explore the side bending motions. I'm going to take my legs out wide. And we're going to go to the left first. I'll go the same direction as you, so it will look opposite on your screen. So let's all go to the left. So inhale the right arm up towards the sky. Take your left hand just on top of the left thigh. And don't try to make this leg position too much. Keep the leg position in a comfortable place so that you can really think about the ribs lifting off of the pelvis on the right side as you slide your left hand down your left leg. And I really want you to think about length here, lengthening from the crease of the right hip to the right fingertips, not trying to get low, but reaching long. And you may even feel the lower portion of the side waist lengthen by pressing into your left hand that's on your left leg. And now can you change the movement of the breath, feeling the breath expand and raise up into the right side of the body, so that you have a little water wheel action, but along the coronal plane, the side to side. So the inhale comes up from the right hip, out the right fingertips, and then pours down the left side. Let go of the head. See if you can let the left ear fall too, so that you get that spinal movement from the crown of the head all the way down to the pelvic bowl. Can you start and end each breath again back down into the pelvis? And then reach the right arm out to the side and use that hand to end the left hand to push you back up. And then we'll repeat on the other side. Left arm rises. Reach up and out of the left fingertips and slide the right hand down the right leg. First, reaching really long, grounding the left sit bone, reaching through the left fingertips. Let the head hang towards the right shoulder. So right ear towards right shoulder. So that side bending begins at the neck, moves through the side waist, down through the ribs, between the pelvis and the rib cage, and then right into the pelvis, even all the way down to the sacrum. See if you can create as much space as possible as you inhale from the left side of the sacrum and the coccyx all the way through the left fingertips. for 2 more breaths. How can you let the right side of your spine be heavy as you reach long through the left side? And then reach the left hand back to the left. Let that left hand pull you back up, head being the last thing to lift. And then come back to center, feeling the side body now. So when we begin with these sustained holds, these more yin style postures, it allows the non-contractile tissues to begin to lengthen. The more yin tissues, the fascia, ligaments, joint capsules, to be worked, to be strained at their end range so that we can strengthen the awareness and usage through the end ranges of motion. So we did forward and back, we did side to side. Now let's come into a twist. We're going to come onto our backs for the twist, and you can do it just on your mat, but if you'd like, you could also do it by the wall with your legs up the wall so that the legs stay really tucked. So if you bring the legs in towards the chest by the wall, and then we come into that spinal twist, it's going to help keep the low back long. But I'll just do it on my mat because it's not necessary. But what we're going to do is we're going to pull our knees into our chest. As you pull the knees into the chest, I want you to draw your hands right to the tops of the kneecaps and then let the feet fall down towards the floor. So it becomes this little traction, and you'll feel the hips drop into the sockets. You'll feel the sacrum heavy on the floor. And the goal right now is to feel the whole spine supported. Because when we pull our knees to our chest, oftentimes we'll lift that whole pelvis off the floor. And right now I want you to feel the whole spine. So sacrum, low back, mid back, all on the floor. And so my knees are slightly above my hips. And again, you could do this on the wall as well so that the feet stay in. And now we're going to we'll go to the left first again. So I want you to bring the arms out like a T. And I want you to keep the knees into the chest so that the left knee kind of moves towards the left elbow as you rotate the legs towards the left side. And notice if the right shoulder starts to pop up. If you can you keep the right shoulder down and maybe prop up the knees with a blanket, a block? And notice how the back is long here while we have our knees bent in towards our chest. I want to keep the back of the spine long. And I want to bring that awareness back to that sort of water wheel style breathing. But this time, what I want you to think about doing is breathing up the back of the spine and then down the front of the spine behind all the internal organs, right where that anterior longitudinal ligament connects the bodies of all of your vertebrae, right into your deep core. Can you use the breath to ascend and descend up and down the front of the spine? Because the front of the spine is the weight-bearing portion of the spine. So we want to bring more awareness, more proprioception, more stability and mobility to the front of the spine. So often we think of the back as behind us, but I want to get that backbone inside us and free up that by bringing awareness to that. So take the next 5 breaths, observing where you can feel the front of the spine easily, but also maybe noticing where you have poor awareness or no awareness of what the front of the spine feels like. And I have us in this flexion-based twist so that there's a little bit more compression on the front side to give just a little bit more feedback. And then as you're ready, pull your knees back into center. Maybe one rolls up, then the other rolls up. Come back to the hands on the bottom of the kneecap. So fingers kind of cup the bottom of the kneecaps. And then let the spine fall heavy into the floor. Feel what neutral feels like in the body. Coming back again to the awareness of the breath, traveling up and down the front of the spine, the place between your organs and the spine, in front of the spinal cord, in front of the nervous system. And then pull the knees into your chest. Let the arms go out like a T, and then reach both knees together over towards the right elbow, trying to keep the left shoulder blade and shoulder on the floor. If you reach a barrier or an edge before the feet and knees touch the floor, maybe you prop that up with a blanket, a block, your foam, or even a bolster. Keeping all of your awareness on the front border of the spine. Can you feel the breath move along every single spinal segment? Breath washes down 7 vertebrae in the cervical spine, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, along the front of the sacrum, the fused sacrum, and then even into the coccyx. The front of our spine is the weight-bearing part of our spine. Can we draw awareness to where we want to bear and stabilize our center and our weight so that the back of the spine can be opened in order to be the mobile portion? So can we find the stable portion to take that stability part out of the mobile portion in the back of the spine? And then bring the knees back to center. Give yourself a little hug or maybe drop the knees again, letting gravity pull you into the mat. So either tucked or legs long, whatever feels right now. Feeling the spine from sacrum to occiput completely supported. And then now, let's get into a little bit of movement. So we did a whole lot of sensing. And now maybe we can think about moving along all of those planes. So we're going to use the foam roller to begin. We're going to start on the floor. And we're going to do a little movement over the foam roller in the most rigid part of our spine, the thoracic spine, which protects all of our internal organs. So a lot of times that becomes protective and we lose the dynamic capacity for that area to move. So we'll start right in there, first on the floor with our foam roller, then we'll go to the wall with our therapy balls and then end with a little bit of movement on the wall. So to begin, take the foam roller perpendicular to the spine. Spine rests on the foam roller, hands interlace, and the pinkies come right to the base of the skull to support the skull. So I literally slide the pinkies up, wrap my hands, my palms around my neck so that my head does not have to do any work. And first I'm just going to roll up and down just a little bit to find that just right spot, a place that might feel a little denser than other places. And then I'm going to land my hips, because I want to move through the spine. And I'm going to inhale and lean back. I'm going to let my elbows drive to the floor. So my elbows are going to stay tight here. So I'm staying on that sagittal front to back plane. I'm going to breathe in. And then I'm going to exhale, chin to chest. And I'm going to try to curl up and look towards my belly. Then I'm going to inhale back. Elbows are staying tight to keep the neck long. I'm even going to arch my low back so I stick my sit bones in towards the floor. And then I'm going to exhale, bring my gaze down towards my navel, bring my elbows towards my pubic bone, and round through the whole spine. The gorgeous ball could be nice here too if your foam roller is really firm. I'm going to arch from pelvis and from head. So gaze looks up. Look into the top of your eyes. Try to bring your elbows to the floor, lifting the chest bone towards the sky and pressing the sit bones down. And then gaze comes down, nose looks down, elbows come down, gaze towards your navel. 2 more times. Lean back, leading with the elbows and the gaze. Arch the low back, and then exhale, gaze comes down, nose comes down, elbows comes down, and pubic bone lifts up, tucking the tailbone. 1 more time, moving from both ends of the spine. And then round. And then release the hands. Let's move on to our side. So come towards your left side. We'll actually work the right side first. Take your foam roller right into the place between the rib cage and the pelvis. Again, gorgeous ball is great because I have a softer foam roller, which makes this really nice, but a hard foam roller might be too dense. And now I'm going to let my head rest down. You can also rest it onto a pillow. And now we're going to go through this side bend motion. The reason I have it in the lower portion of the spine, not the rib cage right now, is because most of the side bend, more side bend occurs in this side waist between the ribs and the pelvis. And the action is going to actually be on the top side of the body. I'm going to reach my right arm and leg really long. First, I'm going to press my fingertips and press my foot into the floor, trying to create an arc. creating as much length as possible. Breathing through the whole right side, from fingers to toes. And now I want to move between contraction and expansion. So I'm going to inhale and reach into the floor. And I'm going to exhale and I'm going to bring my knee and my elbow to touch so that I really get this contraction in that side. And then I'm going to reach long. And then I'm going to exhale and contract. I might even lift the head up and get a little side crunch. Then I'm going to reach long, and I'm actually even reaching long with both hands, touching the floor, feeling that grounding, closed chain support as I breathe in, and then exhale. 4 more times. Three more. Feeling expansion and then contraction, mobilizing both sides, actually working the top side and mobilizing the bottom. Last one. And then release. While you're up partially, move that foam roller up again. Let the head drop down so you're still in that side bend. And now we're just under breast height. We're in the rib cage now. And I want to come into a little rotation so that I'm coming into this book opener action. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide forward first. And then I'm going to slide back. I can even use my hands to drag across my body into that rotation. I'm going to expand and breathe in. And then I'm going to exhale like a book, close my top hand towards my bottom hand. Then I'm going to reach out. And then slide my hand across the body. I like to drag the hand so I get this pull. So the motion comes from the rib cage, from the chest, rather than the shoulder. Take a big breath into expansion. And then exhale. 2 more rounds. Breathing in and out. Getting that foam on that just right spot. I really love the forward reach to get the rotation forward a little bit before I go back. Great. Now let's come towards the other side. Foam or gorgeous ball or rolled up blanket even comes to the side waist. I'm going to lengthen out the top leg so the foot is on the floor, and I'm going to lengthen out both arms so that my top fingertips are touching the floor, maybe even clawing with the fingertips so that there's this suction cup type action through the hands, so that I feel this lengthening as well as this pushing down and grounding to create a little ground reaction force. So as I push down through my hands, there becomes more length in the side. Now I'm going to take a deep breath in, reaching long in both directions. And then as I exhale, I'm going to bring my knee and my elbow towards one another on this coronal plane or this frontal plane, moving along the side seam of the body, reaching long. And then coming up, reaching long, coming up, reaching long, Coming up. 3 more. Two more. Coming in contact with the ground before you lift. And reaching back up. And then now bring the foam underneath the ribs. Letting the head come down. Now, reaching forward to begin. And then sliding the hand across the body as you come back. Using the hand to pull the chest open. And then exhale, come back. Again, sliding. Letting the arm come behind you, taking a deep breath in. And then exhale, closing the book. Reaching forward. And then sliding back. Feeling that pulling, that tractioning, the opening of the front of the rib cage. And then maybe 4 more rounds. Connecting your breath to the movement. Breath, the best way to mobilize the rib cage. One more round. And then letting go of the foam. Starting to make our way up. Continuing to increase our movement and stability as we move away from the floor. Find a wall and a set of therapy balls. Oops. It's okay. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit. Now bringing the balls to the back, right in the thoracic curve, and then just moving the legs up and down so that you're activating now all of those small muscular connections between the back bones of the spine, the back of the vertebrae, all the spinous processes, the transverse processes responsible for all of the movements that drive the movement of the spine. So movement of the spine occurs in the back, and stability of the spine occurs along those vertebral bodies. So now we're starting to get into a little bit more movement. So we're awakening all of the back musculature now as we just strip alongside in the grooves of the spine. Making your way from the bottom of the thoracic spine up towards the top, or maybe top to bottom, just exploring where you feel like you need to awaken most. So notice, where do you feel the most sensation or the most awake or aware of where the body is in space? And then maybe notice where it feels the most blocked or kind of a dull sensation. So we're using this rolling right now to kind of undull or to liven up those areas in the spine where maybe we don't feel quite as much. Taking about, 10 or so more passes finding those just right spots to enliven them. And then release the balls. And then come back against the wall. And we'll now move through each of those segments. So find, just like you were on your floor, find the sacrum on the wall. Tailbone is heavy. The back of the pelvis is resting against the wall. And notice how much space there is in the low back, in the neck, if the head can reach the wall or not. And then now, let's roll the chin towards the chest, shoulder blades forward, roll the thoracic spine off the wall, and roll the lumbar spine off the wall. Hands may rest on the thighs gently. Keep the sacrum affixed to the wall. Now breathe in here. Glue the sacrum to the wall, and then as you exhale, try to place every single backbone on the wall. L5 through 1, T12, all the way through T1. You might find like, oh, I get to like T10, T9, that bra strap area, and then to get the upper area on the wall, the lower area wants to pop off. So maybe pause, breathe into the back. Exhale, feel the spine descend down the front of the spine. And notice if you can keep curling up. Feeling how some segments are really easy to feel against the wall and some not so much. Now, let's do that 2 more times. Rolling down, crown of the head, chin to chest, rolling the upper back, feeling the shoulder blades round. Can you take each backbone off one at a time? And then now anchor the pelvis to the wall. Exhale, feel the navel pull up and back, pulling the bottom of the spine into the wall, rolling up, maybe pausing where you get stuck, taking another breath. Continuing up the wall. And then repeating 1 more time. And you're still going to have the space in the back of the neck, just so you know. And sometimes it's hard for me to even get my head and neck on the wall. So take 1 more round, just noticing where it's easy, where it's hard, and where you can improve, knowing that you can come back to this at any time, working on that segmental mobility of moving the back part of the spine. Like a slinky. Last round, roll up. And then 1 more time, rolling down. And then coming away from the wall for our final thing. Now, we're going to just kind of throw the spine away with this last one. And I really love this last one because in Hatha Yoga, or I learned it particularly from Kripalu Yoga, but I believe that the lineage is from the yoga, Hatha Yoga Pratyeka, I believe. It's called the breath of joy. And so it has 3 parts. It's 3 big inhales followed by an exhale. And so we'll get the side length sideways lengthening with the arm integration, and we'll get spinal extension, and we'll get this big ha, this letting go, surrendering the body and the breath. So it's going to look like this. We're going to breathe in with the arms swing up, breathe in, the arms swing out, breathe in, the arms swing up, and then exhale, we'll bend the knees and we'll just surrender the spine. So it's going to look like this at full pace. It's going to be, and then do it 3 more times. Do 1 more and then pause down in that forward fold. And then just let the spine hang heavy. Feel gravity now pull down on the spine, surrendering the spine to the floor, letting gravity decompress it, shake the head, shake the shoulders, shift the hips to get a little rotation. Feel the fluidity and freedom in the spine. No need to hold yourself up. Exhaling all the way, and then push into your feet, lift the arches, press down as you begin to rise, stacking the pelvis over the ankles, stacking the lumbar spine, thoracic spine, rib cage, shoulder blades, neck and head, feeling the internal support of the spine as you rise up into standing. Feeling the vibration, the aliveness of that nervous system carried in the spine. Feeling 1 more time back into the stable front portion of the spine. The mobile back portion of the spine. And then just bring your hands to your heart, coming and feeling the midline orientation of the spine and the body. Being grateful for our ability to hold ourselves up and move ourselves into the world. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful weekend.